Thank you for coming. Last lesson we finished learn React API. And let's together remember what we can do. So we created application which render article list, add some functionality to add new articles, to validate the form for adding article. Also add some filter as that picker. Also can show the content of article and show all comments by the articles. And now we understand React principles, how React render algorithm works, what the data we have as state and props. We use state for describing our component. For example, article list. No, article, for example, yes. Article list, comment list. Yes, for example, article list. In state we have filters. It's a filter filters articles which we render. This data describe our article list component. Also we have data as props. We're using them to pass data from parent component and get for the child component. Also we know how to pass data. For example, to pass data from parent to children, we use props. Yes, pass it via props. But if we return this data, for example, vice versa, from children to parents, we use some functions. For example, in app it's a remove article, so we pass some data, yes, here, and as argument we've got ID to remove article. And when we add filter, our component becomes bigger, the logic becomes more difficult, and we begin to separate our logic from render method, because render is responsible only for the rendering UI, and we need to separate our business logic from user interface. It's a not new idea in the front-end world. Also, maybe you know MVC frameworks, for example, Backbone, Knockout. They use it like MVC architecture in part to separate model from view, from controller. And when React was released, developer thought that, oh, it's a library to build user interface, so it will be our view in our MVC architecture. And we can use it together with Ember, Backbone, but only as a view. But for React, it's not the best approach. And if you use React, it's better to create your own architecture and use tools which is better for the React. In one of these, it's a Flux. So Flux, it's a application architecture for building user interface. So it was released together with React at the same time. So here I will send you a link to read about it. So it's Flux, and also, so yes, okay. And let's open our presentation and let's see parts of the Flux architecture, what the blocks of it, and how to work with it. Flux is just an implementation of unidirectional data flow architecture. It means that all our data goes to only one way all times throughout all blocks. So let's introduce every component of this architecture. For example, as if we would like to remove article. So everything begins, for example, here, React views. It's our view component. And if we click button to remove article, to clicking on the button, it's a user interaction, which fires action creators. Action creators, it's a pure function. It's a which return serialized object. And this object only describes our action. For example, I'll open this one. And for example, it's just a function which return, for example, if we would like to remove article, we need ID of the article, and we just return type of action, for example, remove article, and just ID. So this is function which return description of our action. After that, it goes to the dispatcher. Dispatcher, it's like a real person dispatcher, which pass this action creator to stores. In your Flux application, you can have many stores, because store keeps data, keeps state of your application. For example, our state, it's a article list, articles, and dispatcher will pass action creator like remove article to every store, and every store will check, could the store do with this one. So after that, store return some information to React views. It says that something was changed, you need to render your tree. And as from our first lessons, you know that for React, it doesn't matter what was changed. For React, it's more important the fact that was something changed. After that, we render our DOM. So, Flux, also Facebook provides special library which calls the same Flux, which can help you to build this architecture for your React applications. But this library provides only dispatcher. It's like a small library which provides subscription and publish. And because of only this small library and dispatcher as a singleton, it's not the best approach for you to use in commercial development. And when Flux was released, a lot of developers tried to create their own example implementation of the Flux. And one of these, it's one of the most popular implementation of Flux, it's Redux. Redux is also a library, and let's observe why it's better. First, Redux, it's a library like which works like a functional programming. If it's functional programming, it means that our state is predictable. It also doesn't care about our environment. So Redux doesn't influence to the environment, and environment doesn't influence to our functional programming components or functions. So if it's predictable state, it's easier to control the state. And as I said, doesn't care about environment, it's a pure functions. Pure functions, it's a functions which get some arguments, work with it arguments, and return new arguments. For example, if we have function, yes, and this function should be pure, and we call it sum, for example, a and b, and return a plus b. It's a pure function. We work only with these arguments. But for example, if we send here a JAX request, it will not pure functional. So in Redux, we will face a lot of parts of our library with a term per function. So, and let's compare Flux and Redux, why Redux is more popular. So this image. As I said before, Flux architecturing, it's like a view. When we click something, we pass action creator to the dispatcher. Dispatcher passes our actions to every stores, and stores send to view some changes what we need to re-render. But Redux, something different. So first, don't pay attention to this one middleware. It will be next lessons. It's a little bit advanced topic, but otherwise, we have view. For example, let's example to remove article. We have view. We click on button, remove article. We create action creator, which describes that this article with this ID should be removed. This action creator goes to store, and as you see in Redux we have only one store. Only one. It's a main difference between Flux and Redux. And when it was created, they thought, oh, if we have one store, for what we need one dispatcher? And they put dispatcher to the store. So after that, actions go to store, goes to reducers. Reducers could be many, so you can have many reducers. These reducers also pure functions, which get some arguments, work with it, and return it. But return only state. So in store you keep your state. We return state. After we change our state, we render our view. Maybe questions? We will beat it by code, but for now, for theoretical part, do you have any questions? I think everything simple. So maybe let's create small component with our unidirectional data flowing architecture. So let's create this one. So first I will send you link to read documentation about Redux. Of course, it's created by Dan Abramov, which working on Facebook. So here is documentation about this library. I will send you. And also, I highly recommend you read the 2 articles more. First calls Flux in pictures from Lynn Clark. It's an explanation of this architecturing by cartoons by real person. For example, who is dispatcher in real life, who is action creator is real life, who is store in real life. So it will help you to understand it clearly. I will send you Flux in cartoon. So it should be here. And also Redux in pictures, yes, as a cartoon, also from Lynn Clark. Yes. Let's now build our application. Maybe when you install our Gulp dev stack, you notified that we have Redux, some small Redux application like a counter. You saw the result, but let's together build it once more to understand how it was created, what we think about when we created it. First, we need to install our packages. First, of course, is Redux, and the second one, Redux is a library not for React. Redux is just implementation of the Flux architecture. And you can use Redux in vanilla.js application. You can use Redux in Angular.js and in React. And for React, we have special package React Redux. So I will open for you this one to see what we should build first. One notifier, like as this is unidirectional data flow, we can't change store from view. We need goes to every our block of our architecture, from view to actions, actions to store, from store to reducer to state. We can't call store from view forwarding only without actions and other blocks. So first we need to create our view. Let's create this component which we'll call counter. Yes. Counter. So let's add it to our application here. Counter from counter. Just counter. And let's add this one. Yes. So what we will have? We will have a field where we will see our counter number, and we need a button which will create action creator. Yes. First, let be one. Here we will have counter, and here we will have button like an increment. Yes. So we created our view. Yes, let's see how it looks like. Cool. But of course, it doesn't work. So next step will be actions. So we need to create action creator. It's better to separate your action creators for the components from another file directory. So we will create directory we will call action creators. So, and you can a lot of action creators, and if action creators work only with one component, it's better to create them in one file. For example, our action creator will work with counter. Let's create a counter. And it's just, as I said before, it's just a function, pure function. Export const increment. As we increment only by one, we do not, we do not pass any arguments. So what we need to return? Return type of our action. How we will call it? It's just a string iteration, so we need to name our action. It should be unique. Increment counter. As this is constant, yes, it's constant. We will not change it anymore. It's better to use it like a uppercase. Increment counter. Yes. So we create our action creator. Next step. We create action creator, and now we need to create reducers. We will create also directory reducers. So reducers could be a lot. We can have a lot of reducers. So, but we also need to create like a function which will combine all our reducers to one. So for it one we create reducer JavaScript counter and index.js. So as I said before, it's just a pure function. Export default. So as arguments, we've got our state. Yes, because we keep state in store. So here we have our state. For example, it's a number of counters. Yes, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And action. Action, this is object which is returned by action creator. So our action will be this object. Clear? As this pure function, our reducer should be immutable. It means we should return always new state. We can't return, for example, how it looks like if it's pure. If type from action. So here we need to destructurization our type. If our type, oh no, yes, if our type equals this type, we will return state plus 1. Yes, we increment only by 1. Else, we return previous state. Yes, this is pure function. But this is not pure function. This is not immutable because we have our previous state, we copied it, changed the copy, and return copied state. Here we change our state and return it. We don't change our state. We create new one. It's one of the main principles of Redux application. It should be immutable. This is wrong. Here we return new one and we save our previous state. Because of this principle, we can create like a time machine. We can jump from the state. We can to the future, we can go to the past. Is it clear? Action creators goes to every reducers. It means if we do not check our type, all our reducer will change something. Because of it, we need to check type always. Is it clear? So, and here we need to create like one combined reducers, because we can have a lot of. How it will be? We need to import from Redux. If I'm not mistaken, combine reducers, yes. Export default combine reducers, and here just object of our reducers. Import counter from counter. That's all. We combine all our reducers. If we create new one, we import it, and add here. Is it clear? So we create our reducers, our stack of our reducers, because we can have a lot of, but we need to combine all our reducers to 1. So this is 1, which is combined from another from all reducers.
If we will have one more reducer, where it have to be placed.
We create new one here. Yes. Some logic here. Yeah. Import new user from new, import it and pass it here.
Okay.
That's all. So let's go to our schema. So next we need to create store. As I said, the main difference between Flux and Redux, we have only one store. We will create special directory for it, store, one store, and here only index JavaScript. So we need to import from Redux, if I'm not mistaken. Create store, import our reducer from reducers, export default, create store, that's all. We create our store. Of course, in the future we will add more arguments here, but it will be maybe in one. It will be connected with middlewares, but middlewares we will research in one lesson. Here also we can pass initial state of our counter. Of our counter, for example. Here will be counter, I don't know, something 0, for example. Yes, we can pass here, but using features of ECMAScript 6, we can go to reducer and pass here initial state 0. It means our counter begins from the 0 value. We create our store. Cool. Now we created everything: store, reducers, actions, view. Now we need to connect all parts among them. So we will go to app and we will connect our store, only one store for the whole application, to our application. How to connect it? We will import special component from React Redux, which calls provider. And we need to wrap our app into provider. Provider, so many. As you understood, here we will pass store. Yes, and we need to import our store from store. We connect our store to our application. That's cool. So now let's go to our view, and here we need to connect our store from the two parts of it. So if we here our view, now we need to connect store with you and actions creator to you. How to connect store? Special function from React Redux, which is called just connect. And here we write connect, plum, 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 plum. Here will be something interesting. Into connect we need to pass two arguments. First it's a function, second it's an object. But before explanation what the functions, we need to import action creator from, it goes from AC counter increment. Cool. So first function calls map state to props. It means that we keep our state into store, and now our counter doesn't have state. Store pass state to counter via props. Because of it, function calls map state to props. As argument we have here state. We use destructurization state. Here this name of the state which calls like your reducer, which you pass here. It will cause counter. So let's go here, counter. And we need to return object props. Here we'll pass all our props to this counter from store. That's all. We connect our store with view. From store we've got state, pull out counter from state and pass counter as props to counter component. And this one. This object calls dispatch, map dispatch to props. It will connect action creators with store, like this one, and pass it to view. So the key of this object will be props, which will pass to this counter, +1. It will be increment. So now our counter knows about action creator. Is it clear or maybe not? So we import increment, but we do not pass it here, for example, on change. No. We pass it to the object map dispatch to props, and key will be from props. Props. First will be +1, and value of our counter will be counter. Pass it here, and +1 here. That's all. We connect all our blocks. I think the main difficult part is to connect all this part to our view. So I think we can test it. I'm a little bit afraid of it. So and let's, no, something wrong. Let's see. Oh, on change, yes, of course on click. Sorry. I agree that just increment one value and to create this a little bit weird architecturing. So I think we spend maybe more than 20 minutes to increment only one, but now I think you know how this increment component was created in our gulp dev stack. And now let's create one more feature to increment it by not one, another value which we would like. It will be here like a BR input, text, and button. So before create our view, I would like to ask you about everything is clear. Now let's see how we add some features to already created our architecture. It will be pretty fast, more faster than create the first reducers, counter, and so on, so on, so on. So let's create our view. No, it will not. So why? Because if we change our input, we change state of this input. Yes, so we need to have state. For example, increment by value. We begin from 0. Yes, and here const increment by value. Do everybody understands what I'm doing? I create just view. It's not connected with Redux. Just view to change our this one. So increment from state. Put increment by value to value. No need node. And on change. On change, it will be function which we will use to change our input. So here it will call handle change. And let's it call will be increment by value, set state increment by value. So we create our function to change it. Oh no, yes, of course, like this one. E target let's see what we have now. Works, yes. We change state of our input. Let it be not type, number. We can't increment by word. So we created UI, yes. So it becomes from 0 and we can change it. We created UI. What's next? Maybe you remember the schema. What will be next? Okay. Action creators, yes. View, next, action creators. So, our action creator connected with this props counter, yes? So I think we can put our action creator to the same file. It will be export const increment by value. Here will be value. So we should return object. First will be type increment by value, for example, yes? Increment by value. And here we also need to pass value. We will increment it by value. So some developers just pass it like this, value. Yes? But some, including me, everything which is connected to change the state, which goes to the special payload. And here we just pass value. Because here we pass all arguments. It will be in payload, because it's payload to change our state by this value. But type it's something different. So, but this is not required. You can pass it value as you want. It's up to you. But in my application, I prefer put it to payload. So we create our action creator. Next, what we need next? Remember, guys, the reducer. So we will work with the same component, with the same value. So we put our logic to the same reducer. So if the one function you have more logic, it's better to use switch. Here you pass type. Here will be, for example, increment counter. If it's increment counter, you return state +1. We don't need break anymore. Here is default. We just return state. And here we add one more case. The case will be increment by value string. Yes? Sorry. And we need to return state plus something. Also, we pull out payload and plus payload value. That's all. Remember, it's a pure function. We've got state, action, got payload, and return new state. We do not change previous state. We return new state. It's a main concept. Do not change. And one thing to be clear. In some articles, I faced that some guys, for example, if you need plus not payload value, but send AJAX request to get, for example, article list. Yes, we need to send AJAX request. Some guys can send AJAX request here because this is action creator. Change article list because we need to send AJAX request. No. AJAX request, it's a side effect. Reducer, it's a pure function which doesn't work with side effects. We will put it from another part, I will explain later, but for now you should know that no AJAX request here. No, it's a pure functions work only with arguments. We created a reducer, store. Oh, we need to, yes, we do not need to pass one more reducer because we use the same. Store is already created. Action created is already created, and we need to connect our store and action creator to our view. So counter the same. We will change the same props, and we just need to increment by value and go to object map dispatch to props plus, for example, by. Yes? Plus by from here and click plus by. Here just pretty easy, I think. Let's think what we have now. Expand listen to the function instead of get up object plus by increment by value plus arrow function. Sorry.
You need to put for plus by arrow function in the
Sorry, let me think. It's a mistake here. Plus by. Oh yes, sorry. Yes. If you here you should pass functions from React courses. Here you will not pass functions. You pass result. You will pass object because our function return object. Here you pass function. Let's see what we have now. Question, it's not connected with React and Redux. Why? It's 0.3 now. Because JavaScript, it's a dynamic typization. And you know that, for example, 0 plus 1 a string, you've got 0, 1. Yes? It's because of JavaScript is dynamic typization language. So here we need to like increment by value and convert it to number to be sure that this is number. It's because of JavaScript, no React and no Java. I think so. Works.